of all, last year at this day, I took 2 pictures and then I was able to go home. Okay, so, but it's great being here, and I think I'm really looking forward to the start of the season. It's been very interesting. I think the guys have shown that they're really determined to make this a good year. So with the things that they've done this off season, with the way Anthony and Quincy arranged the thing in LA where everybody to get together and work out, all the way to coming back in here, 3 weeks early and getting a lot of work in. So I think it's a good time for Pelicans basketball, and we're looking forward to the start of the season. Questions? Well, really I didn't immediately talk to a lot of the guys because one of the things that we talked about is that I would obviously finish out the season in Golden State, and then I would take the job here. I just felt like it wasn't the right thing to do to really start communicating with the players so much right away. So obviously I contacted a few guys and just said I'm excited about the possibilities. But I think if you look at what they did, like I said, in the summer, I think there was a hunger here. Sitting on the other bench in the 2 games that Golden State played here, I think you could see the energy in the building. I think you could see the possibilities of what happened. If we took a team that won the NBA championship, had them down 20 going into the fourth quarter. So obviously there's some potential there to do some good things. And the 2 games that was played in Oakland, I think there was a possibility that with a play here and a play there, we could have had an opportunity to win both of those games, either one of those games. So it's just such a small margin of error when you get to that playoff situation that can be the difference between winning and losing. And that's one of the things that we have to try to correct and rectify this year. We've got to try to put ourselves in a position where we're making those plays and not having someone make those plays against us.
What does Anthony need to do this season or continue to do what he's done? Not only be an MVP candidate, but true leader of this team and make his teammates better?
Well, I think he's already the true leader of the team, and I think he does make his teammates better. Obviously, he put on 15 pounds of muscle, which I think helps him. It doesn't slow him down at all. So that's a good thing. I think his game will continue to get better. We still have to remember that he's 22 years old. So his game is going to continue to improve because I think with the maturation of his body and everything, he's just going to naturally become better. But he needs to get stronger in his post-up position, and I think he will, as I said, holding his position. I think he's going to expand his game and is going to step out. When I said I want him to become a three-point shooter, I didn't mean that he was going to be Steph Curry and shoot, 250 or 300 threes, okay? I meant that the opportunity was going to be there sometime for him to step out, especially the corner three, and he's very capable of making that shot. It's one step back farther than, where he's shooting from right now anyway. So I think he'll have the opportunity to do that. But he is truly a team guy. It's all about the team with him. It's all about winning. So that I'm not really worried about at all, because I think he'll do a good job of trying to incorporate everybody into what we're going to try to do offensively. But he is the leader of our team, and he's going to be the leading scorer. It's a different kind of player. I think he's a different kind of player. With Channing, he was a spacer. He really was a three-point guy. I mean, we made him a three-point guy. The year before, if I'm not mistaken, I think he'd made, I want to say 13 threes the whole season. And I think he made 172 of them with us. But we were in a situation where we wanted him to be that stretch four or stretch five, whatever you want to call him, open up driving lanes for Steve Nash. And I see Anthony as more of a complete player. Channing was great for us and did an outstanding job, but I think Anthony is a facilitator. I think he can be a playmaker. Obviously, he's got great speed for a big guy. His skill level is really good because, as I said before, he grew those 8 inches. He basically was a guard out on the floor, so he had ball handling skills. So I just think he's more of a complete player. Probably doesn't have the range that Channing have right now, but that's something that I think could come also.
What aspects of Anthony's game do you expect to change or improve the most because of his changing physical stature?
Well, I don't think anything have changed his physical stature other than the fact that I think it gives him an opportunity to hold his post position a little better. He'll have more of a center, so I don't think he'll get moved out as easily as he has. But the fact that he gained the 15 pounds has no bearing on his quickness or playing out on the floor, being able to run. So I would say the positive thing about it is that I think it gives him a little more strength as far as holding his position in the post.
How do you get a team to, like the Golden State team 2 years ago was good, but lost, I think, in the first round of the playoffs. And how do you get a team that's basically the same roster to play at so much more of a higher level?
Well, first of all, I wanted the team back together. Dell and I talked about it. I just saw potential. I think this team has great depth. I think what you have to do, and these guys truly believe that they should have had an opportunity to not only be in the playoffs, but they went into the Golden State series thinking that they could win the series. And I think, number one, that's the first battle you got to overcome. Secondly, I just think that health becomes such an issue in anything. And if you look back last year at the Golden State team, very, very few injuries. Everybody, there was very few injuries. So you got to get a little lucky in that aspect of it too. So if we can get everybody healthy here, I think the attitude is already there from the standpoint of feeling like, that we should be a team that can compete with anyone. So then it comes down to doing it on the court. You got to execute. You got to be able to come up with big stops. And to me, that's the number one thing. The Golden State team, we were very good offensively at scoring and being able to do that. But I think what made that team so good is that when they needed stops, they could come up with stops. And that's what we have to become. We have to become a very good defensive team that happen to be pretty, really good offensively.
Along those lines, how do you take players who have the same players? What can you do specifically and generally to make those guys better defensively?
Well, I think the one thing we have to do is that everything comes down to repetition. If you have all of these reps every day, you're going to get better. We got to hold guys accountable, to the point where if you can't get the job done, then there has to be someone else that you try. And we made that perfectly clear. I think Coach Ehrman's made that perfectly clear that, we're going to simplify everything that you do defensively, and it won't be a situation where, well, I thought. You'll know exactly where you should be and the rotations and rebounding positions. So we have to get better in that area right there. The one thing I will say that I thought that Monty did a great job when he was here. I think he did a great job. And the one thing that he did do is that these guys do compete for 48 minutes. And you can go back and look at most of the games that they played, and it didn't really matter what the score was at the time. They played extremely hard. So that's something that we don't have to work on to do, which is really a big hurdle to overcome anyway. So now it comes down to a matter of execution. And I think we're going to have to put guys in a position where they're held accountable, but they're going to have to execute. And that doesn't mean just on the offensive end. That means defensive rotations and assignments on that end of the court also.
What are your thoughts on Corey Weber's game, and do you see him playing here in the future?
Yeah, I think he's a good player. I think he's a good player. I think he's done well in individual workouts. I think he's done pretty good in pickup games. So it's hard to say until you get him in a position where he's in an actual training camp and there's a system that it put in, and we'll see how he adjusts to that. But he's done well over in New Zealand and has played and scored a lot of points over there, really.
What does he need to do to secure a roster spot?
That's a question that I can't answer right now. I have to see him play and see how he does. And, I think the grit is there. I think he's going to give you everything that he got. We just have to see how that works out. Excuse me. I think with Tyreek, he's going to mostly be a point guard. Obviously there's going to be situations where he may play a couple of other positions, but I say right now I see him mainly as a point guard with potential to really push the ball.
You see Dante Cunningham starting at the 3 spot until Quincy comes back?
I would say that that's probably
How confident are you in him, and would there be a possibility where when Quincy gets healthy, he might remain on the bench?
Well, I think that's something that we'll just have to wait and see. But, I like the depth that we have there. Those two guys are very good players there. And, I got confidence in Dante. I think he's a very underrated mid-range shooter. I think he gives us that toughness that we need out. So does Quincy. So it's two guys at that position that I think can be really effective guys. And we'll just see when Quincy get back how it goes.
You mentioned Dante's mid-range game. How much more can he add if he can step back to his feet and start knocking?
We've talked to him about that also, and I think it's something that he's worked on. He's getting more comfortable doing that, and I don't want to put him in an uncomfortable situation because he's very confident in shooting that 20-foot shot. So you don't have to space all the way out to the three-point line to have good spacing on the floor. We're going to have good spacing, and there's some guys, obviously, the Ryan Andersons of the world that can take a couple of steps behind the line and be comfortable. And there's other guys that's not quite that comfortable, so we'll have them in their comfort zone.
I think you said last week you told fans you thought they'd see the best Eric Gordon since he's been here. What makes you feel that way about him? What do you see his role?
Well, as I said before, I really like him. I like him to the point that when I was at Phoenix, we offered him a contract. So I just feel like he's a very good player, and I think if he played in an up-tempo system, where he had more opportunities, I think he shot the ball extremely well last year, 44%. I think the last 30 or so games of the year, or something like that. I think so. The potential is there, and I just think when you give him the freedom, and more possessions in a game, then I think he's comfortable playing that way.
You mentioned Tyreek playing more at the point. Is that before Drew Holiday is full go, or do you think even after Drew comes back, he'll have to?
Well, that's a lot of these questions is hard for me to answer. I mean, I don't know that until Drew actually get back and it doesn't have a minute restriction or something. So right now, though, I think Tyreek is going to be the guy that's our point guard, and then we'll go from there. Hopefully it'll be a situation where both of them play great, and we've got two really good players at that position. Along with Norris. I mean, Norris is going to be also a very good player at that position too, and he has the capabilities of playing both spots. Yeah, I think it really. I think this is. If you go back and look, even during his Memphis days, he was very effective when the ball was being pushed. I think he's very capable of getting the ball to the basket against just about anyone. He's a great finisher. He's got good size. So I think an up-tempo situation suits him well. Yes.
How's it being in New Orleans? Have you spent a lot of time here in the past? Have you moved your family down here?
They have not moved down here. I have a son that's a senior in high school, and he's gone to the same high school for 12 straight years. I mean, the same school for 12 straight years since he was a first grader or kindergartner. So they're not going to move down until next year. I was here one time 12 years ago as an assistant coach, but I did not live in the city. I lived in Slidell. So being in the city, it's the most unique place. I had the opportunity to be in Northern California, so I spent a lot of time in San Francisco. I've lived in Miami. I've lived in L.A. I lived in Detroit. So I've lived in a lot of places, and I can honestly say that this is the most unique place that I've ever lived. The city is great. The people are great. Even the media. But it's a unique place in that I think the people that live here are so proud of the city, and you can see that when you talk to and visit with people here. I think the restaurants are ridiculous, okay? You can walk into any place here, I think, and get a great meal. But it's a fun place to be because I think the people are really proud of this city and what it represents. And it's really fun being here, the history of this whole city. And I got to spend some time with Trombone Shorty the other day, and he took me through his neighborhood and kind of told me the history of it and everything. And, it's just amazing stuff. I mean, where I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, if it's 25 years old, it's ancient, okay? And here, I live in a building right now that's 160 years old. So those kind of things right there is just, they're fascinating, I think, and it's unique only to this city. There's no other city like it in the United States.
Guys, we have time for a couple more.
How do you look to pick up the pace this year?
Well, we're going to start that from day one of training camp, and I think it's something that's easy to say but very difficult to do. That's a very good question. And what you have to do is that it has to become a mindset of your team. And so from the very first day, we're going to emphasize, the pace of the game and pushing the basketball and the spacing of the floor. And I'm not sure how long it'll take for us to get it, but at some stage these guys are very willing guys and very coachable guys. And so at some stage they'll get it, and I think it's going to be something that's going to be really good for our basketball team.
Is Omer ready to practice as far as tomorrow?
He's ready to go. There's no restrictions or anything, so yeah, he's ready to go.
What is he bringing to the
Oh, someone questioned me about that. Have I been to the restaurants? I got to open up the next button now. Okay, so yeah, it has been good. But someone asked me about Omer the other day, and can he play in this system and whatever. He played at Houston when they had even a faster pace than we had in Phoenix. So he's very capable of doing that. He's a tremendous screener, one of the best screeners in the league as far as freeing guys up. You know, he's been in the top 10 in rebound in the last 5 years per minute played. So you can't run if you're getting the ball out of the basket all the time. So obviously his rebounding is important to us. And he's a very smart player. He's a really smart player, and that helps a lot.
You talked a lot about spacing. Do you see options as someone who's going to set a lot of screens for shooters in the perimeter?
Well, I think he's going to be setting a lot of the screens for everything that happens. You know, I think he's going to be a guy that's very capable of freeing up shooters. Yes, but I think he's also, you know, he's a good passer. You know, he's a good basketball player, which is why we wanted him back on the team. And like I said, it's just an adjustment that guys are going to have to make. But I think you're going to see this style of play that's very beneficial for guys like, you know, AD and Tyreek and Eric and, you know, Quincy and a lot of guys, I think.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.